In this life, no one escapes pain. Wounds do not only arise from great tragedies like the loss of a loved one, broken relationships, or life's failures. They can also stem from the smallest things: a careless word, a cold glance, a memory that seemed forgotten but lingers deep within the heart. For those who have lived through many years, especially in middle age and beyond, these wounds may become sedimented, like layers of earth buried silently, yet heavily. These pains are not just memories of the past. They affect every breath, every relationship, every night's sleep, and how we see the world. The Buddha taught that suffering is an inseparable part of life, but he also taught that where there is suffering, there is also the path to liberation. To recognize our wounds is not to awaken sorrow, but to begin the journey of healing. In the Four Noble Truths, the foundation of Buddhist teachings, the Buddha spoke of dukkha, suffering, samudaya, the cause, nirodha, the cessation, and magga, the path. The first step in healing is to accept the truth of suffering, to acknowledge that we carry wounds within us. Not denying, not avoiding, but gently looking deeply into them. We may ask ourselves, what exactly is causing my pain? How long have I carried this sorrow? What have I done to forget it, or have I only been running away? Only when we are honest with ourselves can we begin to see the roots of our pain. The Buddha did not teach us to run from suffering, but to look straight into it with wisdom, the clarity of mindfulness. Only in truly understanding the nature of suffering can we be free from its control. Some wounds are rooted in attachment, clinging to what has passed. Some are born from anger, harboring resentment over time. Others come from ignorance, not seeing the impermanent nature of life. When we see this, we no longer blame others or fate, but begin transformation from within. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, "No one can harm you as much as your own untrained mind." Thus, recognizing pain is not about blaming, but the first step of mindfulness. We learn to observe our mind without judgment, without suppression, simply being present with compassion. This is the true beginning of deep healing, when we stop resisting pain and instead listen to what it wants to teach us. Under the light of mindfulness, pain is no longer an enemy but a teacher. One of the most difficult things a person can do is to turn inward and face themselves with compassion. For many years, we have been taught to be strong, to move on, to forget, but no one ever taught us how to stay with the pain. How to embrace ourselves, like a mother holds her crying child close to her heart. The Buddha said, "You can search throughout the entire universe for someone who is more deserving of your love and compassion than yourself, and you will not find that person." Yet, most of the time, we are the harshest with ourselves. We blame ourselves for being weak, for not moving on fast enough, for making mistakes, for loving the wrong people, or for not being good enough. These silent self-criticisms are often deeper wounds than anything others have ever said. When we begin the healing journey, the first act is not to forgive others, but to forgive ourselves, not because we were right, but because we have suffered, because we, too, are human, learning how to live, how to love, and how to survive pain that no one ever prepared us for. Self-compassion is not self-indulgence, nor is it avoiding pain. It is the courage to look at our wounds, and to be gentle with ourselves in each moment. It is when we sit quietly, place a hand on our heart, and say, "I am here, and I deserve to heal." In Buddhism, compassion is not only for others, it begins with mindfulness of ourselves. When the mind is less harsh, the body relaxes. When we stop forcing ourselves to become someone else, we begin to feel life flowing within us again. Every breath, every heartbeat. Practicing self-compassion means letting go of unrealistic expectations. It means smiling at our own stumbles. It means not forcing ourselves to get better right away, but giving ourselves time to heal, like a wound that needs cleansing and care, not denial or suppression. We can begin with small acts, giving ourselves time to rest, writing a letter to our past self, sitting in meditation for 10 minutes each morning and sending loving energy to our tired heart, reading the Buddha's teachings like a dear friend. Healing is never a rushed path. It is a journey of steps, each one made of acceptance, forgiveness, and presence. And the first step is always to become a friend to yourself. When we learn to love ourselves rightly, we can love others unconditionally. And only when we are compassionate toward ourselves can deep wounds begin to loosen, and the light of healing begin to enter. There are wounds that cannot be erased, not because they are too big, but because they have left marks on our memory, on moments that cannot be relived. On people who pass through our lives like the wind. We hold on, we cling, we keep asking, why? What if only? But the Buddha taught that the root of suffering lies in attachment. Suffering does not come from the event itself, but from our mind's response to it. When we lose someone we love, grief is natural, but it is the refusal to accept, the clinging to what was, the resistance to change that causes our hearts to bleed day after day. The Buddha called this impermanence, the truth that everything in life changes, arises and passes away. We often hear the word impermanence, but rarely do we understand it with our hearts. Impermanence is not just a law, it is a key to liberation. When we truly see it, we learn to let go at the right time, so we are not chained to the past. Letting go does not mean forgetting or denying. It means receiving the truth without resistance. It means understanding that some people come only to teach us a lesson, that some events don't happen to hurt us, but to help us grow, that some pains are not meant to destroy us, but to open the door for healing from within. When we embrace impermanence, we stop living in fear of loss. We begin to see beauty in every moment because we know everything is fragile, everything is precious. A glance, a touch, a peaceful afternoon, each happens only once, and then it passes. It is this fragility that makes them worthy of our care. Practicing letting go is returning to the present. It means no longer living in what if, no longer drowning in if only. It is waking up each morning, looking deeply into the life present before us, and saying, today, I choose peace. We don't need grand gestures to let go. We only need to breathe deeply, acknowledge the emotion we feel, and smile in acceptance. Every breath is an invitation to release. Every time we close our eyes is a moment to return, to remind ourselves that life doesn't ask us to be perfect, only to live it sincerely. Healing doesn't lie in forgetting the past, but in our ability to make peace with it. And the first realization is this: everything, even the deepest pain, will pass. When our minds are troubled, wounded, and lost, we often seek refuge outside ourselves, a person, a word of comfort, a peaceful place. But the Buddha taught that the safest refuge is not outside, but within. When we are fully present with our breath, the breath is the thread connecting body and mind. When we return to our breath, we are returning to ourselves. And when we practice mindfulness, being aware of each in and out breath, we are building a peaceful home within the soul, a place where even life's storms cannot reach. Mindfulness is not a mystical concept. It is simply the ability to know we are alive in this very moment. It is when we drink tea and know that we are drinking tea. It is when we breathe in and recognize, I am breathing in. So simple, yet it can transform a whole life. When we are wounded, the mind often runs to the past, where memories replay, where pain stays like an unhealed wound. But if we know how to stop, even for just one breath, we'll realize we are still alive, that the present is not the past. The breath is a doorway to the present moment, the only place healing can truly happen. The Buddha taught, live as if today is your last, not to create fear, but to awaken us, so that each day is a complete opportunity. And when we live fully in each breath, pain begins to melt away, like morning dew in the sunlight. Mindfulness doesn't erase the past, but helps us stop being its prisoner. When we are fully present in the now, the ghosts of memory begin to lose their power. We don't need to run, and we don't need to fight. We simply need to sit still and breathe like a flower blooming in silence. From the mindful breath, our body begins to relax, the heart grows lighter, and then, from deep within, a healing energy arises, not from outside, but from the awareness within us. Deep within each human being, there lies a pain we often hide. It may be regret, the feeling of being abandoned, unspoken words, or shadowy memories never truly understood. We become used to running away, pushing it down, or pretending we're fine. But the Buddha teaches, we can only begin to heal when we stop, return, and embrace that pain with deep compassion. Compassion is not a luxury, nor is it something we give only to others. Compassion, first and foremost, is what we must give to ourselves. Because if we do not know how to love ourselves, how can we truly love anyone else? The Buddha once said, you, yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. These words may sound simple, yet they touch the very roots of suffering. Many of us grew up with criticism, comparison, and a deep feeling of not being good enough. We became self-judges, harsh with our own mistakes, forgetting how to embrace ourselves as a kind friend. In meditation, the Buddha taught us to practice compassion for oneself by sending loving energy to the wounded heart within. We might silently say, I send love to the pain within me. I see that I am hurting, and I am here for myself. I will not abandon me. That's all it takes, not trying to get rid of the pain, but seeing it, touching it, and embracing it with tenderness. When we can look at our suffering with kindness, it is no longer a haunting shadow, but a part of our journey toward growth. Compassion doesn't make the pain disappear immediately, but it helps us stop deepening the wound with harsh words, resentment, or denial. It shines a gentle light into the darkness, so pain no longer has to hide in the shadows. And then, little by little, we begin to learn how to forgive ourselves. Forgive the times we were weak, the wrong choices we made, the moments we didn't know how to love ourselves. Forgiveness is not about justification, it's about liberation. Only when we are free from blame can we truly begin to heal. On the path of healing, there is a vital threshold that everyone must cross: letting go. Letting go does not mean denying what happened, nor is it a forced attempt to forget. In Buddhism, letting go is deep understanding. It's seeing the true nature of suffering and no longer holding on to it in our hearts. We often suffer not just because of what happened, but because we cling to emotions, memories, and the wish that the past had been different. We want that person not to have left. We want the mistake not to have been made. We wish we hadn't been so vulnerable. But the Buddha teaches, all conditioned things are impermanent. That means everything changes, and when we resist this truth, we trap ourselves in the cycle of suffering. Letting go is not a one-time act. It is a daily practice. In every breath, in every moment, when an old memory surfaces, we breathe in and say, this is just a thought. It is not me. I choose to let go and be free. The power of letting go is not in forgetting, but in freedom. When we are no longer bound by what has passed, our minds become light as clouds, vast as the sky. We do not need to forget the past, but we no longer need to live in it. The Buddha compared the mind to a lake. When stirred, the water becomes cloudy. When left still, the water clears. Likewise, when we hold on, our mind is agitated, but when we learn to let go, the mind returns to its natural calm, and in that calm, we can see things clearly, not through the lens of anger or regret, but with clear wisdom and compassionate heart. Letting go does not make us weak. On the contrary, it is a sign of deep inner strength, for it takes great courage to say, I cannot change the past, but I can choose freedom right now. And when we let go, something miraculous happens. The pain begins to dissolve, like clouds drifting across the sky. No trace, no chains, only deep relief and a heart ready to love again. One of the most important keys to healing deep wounds is returning to your own body and mind. When pain arises, we often react by distancing ourselves, escaping into work, unconscious habits, or suppressing deep emotions. But the Buddha reminds us that mind and body are deeply connected. And only when we learn to listen and understand both can we awaken the self-healing power within. Our body always sends honest signals. It may be a headache, unusual fatigue, tightness in the chest, or prolonged insomnia. These signs are not random. They are the body's way of saying, stop. Listen. The Buddha taught that mindfulness of the body, or body contemplation, is a method to recognize and understand the truth of the present moment. When we focus on the breath and sensations in the body, we not only acknowledge physical pain but also uncover hidden emotional wounds. By listening to body and mind, we learn not to resist pain or avoid emotions but to allow them to exist and transform naturally. This is an inner transformation that does not require external intervention. What is special is that, with patience and kindness in meditation and mindfulness practice, a healing energy naturally arises within. This is not magic, but the inherent nature of humans, like soil and seed meeting. Life begins to sprout. This process requires patience and compassion for oneself. Progress may not be immediate, and pain may not disappear quickly. But as long as we do not give up, healing will come step by step, gentle yet profound. Self-healing is not an easy path, but it is the truest path the Buddha pointed to. When we connect with body and mind, we return to the root of life, to the pure nature that lies within each of us. Mindfulness is one of the most important and practical methods the Buddha taught to heal deep wounds in the heart. But mindfulness is not a complicated technique, it is simply the full presence in every moment of life. When we live mindfully, we do not escape reality, nor get caught up in thoughts, anxieties, or regrets about the past or future. Instead, we accept and observe everything happening inside and outside with calmness and non-judgment. On the healing journey, mindfulness helps us recognize the true emotions rising within, whether sadness, anger, or fear. Without distraction or avoidance, we can face these emotions with understanding and compassion, rather than allowing them to control us or deepen our wounds. The miracle of mindfulness is that it creates a space between ourselves and negative thoughts or old wounds. With this space, we are no longer swept away like a drifting boat, but can pause, observe, and choose how to respond wisely and clearly. Mindfulness practice can begin simply by observing the breath, feeling the rhythm of the body, or paying attention to small daily actions like eating, walking, or listening to sounds around us. Each small act contributes to a solid foundation for deep healing. Moreover, mindfulness helps us realize that each emotion or thought is like a cloud passing across the sky of the mind. There is no need to hold on or resist, just let them pass naturally. The Buddha said, mindfulness is the gateway to liberation, and through this gateway, we can step out of the cycle of suffering into freedom and peace within the heart. When we carry deep wounds within, it is easy to give rise to blame, anger, or a closed heart toward life. In such a state, the human heart becomes hardened, cold like stone. But the Buddha taught that only compassion can soften a wounded heart. Only compassion can light up the darkness of suffering. Compassion is not only about loving others, it begins with gentleness toward oneself. Many people suffer because they cannot forgive themselves. They blame themselves for past mistakes, for what they failed to do, for not being strong enough to overcome their pain. But the Buddha said, if someone is drowning in a swamp, you cannot save them by shouting at them. You must reach out your hand with love and no judgment. In the same way, we must learn to treat ourselves like a dear friend, listening, understanding, and forgiving. Compassion cannot be faked, but it can be nurtured daily. When we practice loving kindness meditation, metta bhavana, we gradually send loving energy to ourselves, then to loved ones, and eventually even to those who have hurt us. This is not easy, but when it's done, it brings deep liberation. Compassion helps us transcend the narrow and painful sense of self. When we open our hearts to love, not only do others heal, but we also heal ourselves. Love is the most expansive and transformative energy. In moments of deep heartache, ask yourself, can I embrace myself the way a mother embraces her child? If you can do that, you've already taken a powerful step on the path of healing. One of the greatest causes of human suffering is clinging to the past. Painful memories, hurtful words, images of loss, betrayal, or regret keep replaying in our minds like an old film stuck on repeat. The Buddha taught, the past is gone, the future has not yet come, only the present moment is life. When our minds are tied to what no longer exists, we lose the gift of life itself, and in doing so, we allow the past to keep hurting us, not because of others, but through our own obsessive remembering. Letting go of the past does not mean forgetting or denying it. It means accepting that it happened, that it is over, and that we no longer need to carry it as a burden. By letting go, we are choosing to heal. The Buddha once told a story about a man struck by a poisoned arrow. Instead of seeking treatment, he demanded to know who shot it, why, from where, and while seeking those answers, he died because he refused to remove the arrow. The past is like that arrow, the longer we hold on to it, the deeper it wounds us. Letting go is a journey. Maybe today we can't release it completely, but just realizing that holding on is causing us pain is already the beginning. From there, we can learn to smile at the past, thank it for the lessons, and gently say goodbye. Only when we let go can we truly live, and only when we fully inhabit the present moment can true healing begin from the roots. In the busy and chaotic flow of modern life, we are increasingly disconnected from ourselves. We are swept away by worries, noise, social expectations, and unhealed wounds. Gradually, the inner world becomes a place of turmoil, no longer peaceful, no longer a home to return to. The Buddha offered us a miraculous practice, vipassana meditation, like a bright torch that illuminates the depths of the mind. Meditation is not about escaping, but about returning to the breath, to the body and mind. to the present moment. When we sit in mindfulness, each in-breath and out-breath becomes a gentle rhythm of life. We begin to see our mind clearly: anger, fear, sadness, craving, and old wounds, not to judge them, but to recognize and embrace them with awareness. Like a still lake, meditation reflects the truth. When the mind becomes calm, wisdom arises. We clearly see that all emotions come and go, like clouds drifting across the sky. They are not me, they are not permanent. And in that stillness, something beautiful happens. We no longer resist pain. We learn to accept it, to understand it, and to allow it to dissolve naturally like snow melting under the sun. Meditation does not promise to erase wounds overnight, but it gives us a home to return to whenever the soul is weary. Each time we sit in meditation, we remind ourselves, we are not controlled by our pain, we can befriend ourselves. One of the most essential and profound teachings of the Buddha is anatta, non-self. For many in the West, this is a challenging concept, as from childhood, they are taught to build a strong, independent identity, the unique and valuable self. But it is precisely this self that becomes the root of much suffering. The Buddha taught that there is no fixed self, no enduring ego. What we call me is merely a temporary aggregation of the 5 aggregates: form, body, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. When any of these changes, and they always do, then the self also changes. Why is understanding non-self such a powerful path to healing? Because most of our suffering arises from identifying ourselves with the pain. We often think, I was betrayed, I am a failure, I am unworthy. These statements become part of our identity. But when we clearly see that the I is just a stream of body-mind experiences in each moment, we begin to loosen our grip on that identification. We are no longer a hurt person, but simply a being experiencing the feeling of pain. And that too shall pass. Understanding non-self does not mean becoming cold or emotionless. On the contrary, it helps us expand our compassion. Because when we realize there is no permanent I, we see that all others are also struggling in the same river of suffering. There is no longer higher or lower, right or wrong, only deep understanding and empathy. That's why anatta is not just a philosophy, but a profound medicine for the soul. It helps dismantle mental barriers, release self-judgment, and opens up a new space where we can breathe, live, and heal with freedom. When someone has been deeply hurt, the natural reaction is often to close off. They build walls of protection, unable to trust, unable to open the heart. But the Buddha did not teach us to build walls. He taught us to open the heart through compassion, metta. Compassion is not just a soft emotion, it is a liberating force. When we practice true compassion, something magical happens. The one who offers love is often the first to be healed. Compassion is not pity, it is the deep wish to relieve suffering, in oneself and in others. The Buddha taught that among all practices, compassion is a miraculous one, able to reach even the deepest layers of a wounded mind. It requires no justification. You don't need to deserve love. You simply need to be alive, and that is enough. At first, it may feel difficult to direct compassion toward yourself. There may be many inner voices saying, I'm not good enough. I don't deserve forgiveness. But that is precisely when you need compassion the most. Begin with simple words. I know I have been hurt. I know I am still learning how to heal. I love myself for trying so hard. These are not indulgent words, they are reminders that you are still worthy of love. No matter what, and as your compassion for yourself grows, you will find your heart naturally expanding toward others, even those who hurt you. Not because they were right, but because you no longer want to carry the burden of resentment. Compassion is letting go with understanding. This is the path the Buddha walked, and the path he invites all of us to follow with an open heart and a gaze free of judgment. Deep wounds often stem from the past, a trauma, a betrayal, a loss that etched itself deeply into our minds. Even though time has moved on, the pain still lives in us as vivid as if it happened yesterday. The Buddha never denied this reality. He taught that the past is part of the stream of consciousness. But we do not have to be bound by it. The key to moving beyond painful memories lies in returning to the present moment. When we are fully present without judgment, without grasping, simply aware and accepting, the energy of the past begins to loosen its grip. The present is the only place where true life is happening, and where we can consciously transform the mind. Mindfulness, sati, is the tool that helps us return to the now. You don't need to meditate for hours. You can start with small, simple moments. Noticing your breath in and out, feeling your footsteps, listening to the birds, recognizing an emotion arising without labeling it as good or bad. With that alone, you begin to withdraw energy from the past and redirect it into this moment where real healing can take place. Befriending the present also means accepting that you are still hurting. Without resisting it, let the pain be here. Without judgment, like an old friend visiting. When seen and heard with mindfulness, that pain naturally softens, dissolving like morning mist in the rising sun. The present cannot erase memory, but the present can change your relationship to that memory. Instead of being a victim of the past, you become a wise and compassionate observer. And that is the turning point of healing. One of the greatest misunderstandings about letting go is the belief that we must erase the past. Wipe away every painful memory. But in the Buddhist teachings, letting go does not mean denial or forced forgetting. Letting go is a profound act of wisdom and acceptance of what has happened, and a conscious choice to no longer cling to it. In Pali, the word vasaga means renunciation or release, letting go with a pure and unforced heart. It is one of the 7 factors of enlightenment, Bojjhanga. It is not indifference, it is clear-eyed release, a freedom from clinging to pain, no matter how real that pain once was. When we have not let go, we live as though dragged along by memory images, words, sensations replaying over and over. But when we truly let go, the memories may still be there, yet they no longer rule the mind. We can look back with gratitude, or at least with peace. Letting go also does not mean forgiveness must happen instantly. Forgiveness is a process, but letting go is something you can choose now by not feeding resentment, not replaying the same stories, not hurting yourself again and again. Letting go can begin with a single breath. With each exhale, gently say, I release this. I don't need to carry it anymore. Gradually, your heart becomes lighter, not because the past has vanished, but because you are no longer imprisoned by it. Letting go is not abandoning yourself. It is an act of deep compassion for yourself to stop the self-inflicted pain, to stop holding on to what no longer nourishes the soul. It is the gift you give yourself, inner freedom. There are wounds that words cannot reach. No matter how many times we tell the story, no matter how compassionate the listener, there is always a part of our heart that remains silent. Not because we don't want to speak, but because the pain is too deep to be named. The Buddha understood this well. During his journey to enlightenment, there were times when he sat in complete silence, offering no teachings, no explanations, because some truths, especially those about suffering and liberation, cannot be taught through language alone, but must be experienced in the deep stillness of the mind. Silence is not avoidance. Silence, in the light of mindfulness, is a sacred space to listen to ourselves. It's when we stop speaking about the wound and begin to listen to it gently, without judgment. When no words remain, we are left only with the breath and presence. And it is precisely there that healing begins. For nothing soothes the heart more than complete, silent presence, like the Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree in silence. In awakening, sometimes, the best thing you can do for yourself is not to analyze, not to explain, but to offer yourself a space of silence, where the heart can breathe, rest, and melt. If you can, take a few moments each day to sit in silence. No goals, no techniques, just be like a flower that radiates fragrance without needing to be seen. In that sacred space, the deepest layers of pain begin to dissolve, not through words, but through the light of awakened stillness. When the mind is wounded, we often abandon the body. We live in the head in memories. In fantasies, the body becomes a stranger, merely a vehicle for survival. But in the Buddha's teachings, returning to the body is the first step toward healing. The body does not lie. In every breath, every sensation, every heartbeat, it is always honest. It holds memories of pain the mind may try to forget. But it is through the body that we can begin to gently reconnect with our truth with mindfulness and care. The Buddha taught mindfulness of the body, Kayanapasana, contemplating the body in every movement, every breath. This is not just a meditation practice, it is a doorway into deep refuge. A place where the mind can stop running and return to the present. Instead of dwelling in mental stories, we learn to feel ourselves again through the body. Sensation of the feet touching the ground, the gentle rise and fall of each breath, the simple softness of resting hands. These small things become our anchor, keeping us grounded amidst the tides of sorrow. Returning to the body doesn't mean ignoring the mind. It means building a stable foundation from which to meet the mind with greater calm and clarity. When the body is at rest, the mind begins to settle. As we feel the presence of ourselves in every cell, the pain has space to soften, to no longer scream, struggle, or hide. Gently place your hand over your heart. Feel the warmth of your own palm. That place is not just the body, it is life itself whispering that you are still here. And you can begin again. Many people think meditation is about sitting still, eyes closed, in a quiet place, away from the world. But for the Buddha, meditation is not limited to sitting. It is the full presence of awareness in every moment of life, even while washing dishes, sweeping the floor, or walking down the street. In Buddhist practice, there's a simple yet profound method: walking meditation, mindful walking. Every step is a step back to yourself. You don't walk to arrive anywhere, you walk to truly be present. Meditation doesn't require you to withdraw from daily life. On the contrary, it allows you to touch life more deeply in the midst of everyday moments. When you wash your hands mindfully, you're not just touching water, you're touching reality, touching yourself. When you eat in silence, you are not only nourishing your body, but also nourishing your mindfulness. The miracle is in the simplest of actions. If done with full awareness, you may feel a gentle peace blooming, a peace that arises not from the outside, but from being fully alive in the present. For those who carry deep wounds in their hearts, everyday meditation becomes a profoundly gentle yet powerful path of healing. You don't need to force healing. You simply need to be present in each step, in each act, letting mindfulness gently seep into every cell, every crack within the soul. Try it when walking from one room to another. Slow down. Feel the contact of your feet on the ground. Don't try to meditate, just return to each step with sincerity. It is in that very simplicity that you may find a doorway into deep peace, not given from outside, but born from a return to yourself. Forgiveness is not merely a social act or a polite gesture. It is a profound path to healing the heart. When we hold on to resentment and anger, we are binding ourselves in chains of suffering. The Buddha taught that forgiveness begins with the understanding that every being is human, with their own limitations and pain. Those who have hurt us carry wounds they do not know how to heal. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting or accepting wrongdoing. It means freeing our own minds from the bonds of anger so that we may live in peace and freedom. When we forgive, we do not give power to others. We give power to ourselves, the power to heal and to continue life with a lighter heart. The Buddhist method of practicing forgiveness is through mindfulness and compassion. We recognize our own pain clearly, without denial or avoidance. Then gradually, we expand that compassion to the one who caused the hurt, even to ourselves if we blame ourselves. Forgiveness is a journey, not an immediate destination. With each step on this path, we gently unravel the knots of resentment, allowing the light of peace to spread through the heart. When it comes to healing wounds, many people find it easier to open their hearts to others but are harsh with themselves. The Buddha taught that true healing begins with compassion for oneself. Compassion is not weakness. It is the courage to look honestly at one's pain without judgment. It is the acceptance that we are imperfect beings, deserving of love despite our wounds. In the Dharma, compassion is the strength that prevents us from falling into cycles of self-blame, hatred, or despair. When we treat ourselves kindly, we create a safe space within a place where wounds can soften and begin to transform. Try speaking to yourself with the gentlest words, as if comforting a dear friend in pain. I see your suffering. I will not abandon you. That is compassion opening its door. Practicing self-compassion also includes caring for the body, maintaining health, and resting when needed. The Buddha reminded us that the body is the only home we have, and compassion for oneself is caring for that home. When the foundation of compassion is firmly built, the heart softens, expands, and becomes ready to receive the deep healing offered by the Dharma. Healing deep wounds is not a destination but a journey. This journey does not ask for perfection, only for sincerity and patience with yourself. The Buddha's teachings are a guiding light on this path, helping us understand that suffering is not an enemy to fight but an inevitable part of life from which we can learn and grow. When we learn to let go of anger, nurture compassion, and be fully present in every moment, Our hearts slowly heal, and we experience a peace that nothing can shake. Let these teachings be your companion, supporting you through every challenge, every wound, leading you to live a fuller, freer, and happier life. Because, in the end, healing is not a destination, it is a return to yourself, to the light and peace already present in your soul.